Hello everybody, it's good news time. We finally got the client and server done for the FGBACnet solution. So what I'm going to do is just run you through a few of the ground rules, a little bit of housekeeping, and then give you a demo. And I'll probably break this into two parts and do an mstp session as well. So this is really good news. I've got some notes. I'm actually going to make notes as we're going through this. The first thing is that obviously FG is not just BACnet. It is also Sedona, Modbus, Master and Slave, all at IP and serial levels, and that includes BACnet also. So you can run BACnet as mstp, you can run it as IP, you can run it as server or client. There are tools to do that for you to help you with the client to discover other BACnet devices. You can also bring in your Modbus, and what we do is we normalize the data in the Sedona engine, and then we can serve that out as different protocols or whatever you prefer. So it's also built-in HTML5 graphics, all for an amazing price. HTML5, a lot of people talk about HTML5, but not a lot of people are doing it yet in this industry. It will happen over time, but we have it now. Also has built-in HTML5 graphics. Okay, so that's that bit. The next piece of interesting news is drivers in the FG are free of charge. Our business model is to make money from selling you the box. We've got massive plans. We're doing 2,000 a month now, and our plan is to go to 6,000 units a month within 3 years. So your Modbus driver, your BACnet driver, your server, your client, all free and no license control. One of our partners who do the CPT tool have negotiated with us an OEM upfront charge, so CPT is also going to be given to EasyIO customers, is going to be free of charge and without license control. So far so good. The next interesting part is the FG20 and FG32. So I've put FG20 there, but actually it's the 20 and the 32. Both have the same firmware, so the firmware we're going to give you today will run in either of those. Any production version of the FG will run all these features, and there's a little bit of housekeeping I'm going to run through just to make sure that you don't have any hiccups along the way, but it is incredibly easy to use. So per FG20 and 32, you can have a maximum of 128 BACnet IP server objects. So that's where you're going to be serving out to another system, which is your BACnet client. You can also serve out as TCOM at the same time, and you can also serve out as Sedona SOCs. Or you could actually be using Modbus where someone else is the master. So you've got lots of alternatives there, and you can have 31 Modbus slave devices and a maximum of 31 BACnet client devices, but just be careful of those server points if you do have to serve out all those client devices. Later in the year we will increase that up to 256. And of course you've got separate BACnet IDs and MAC addresses, so I think it looks pretty cool. Here's a typical application where you may have a number of FGs, or you may just have one, and you've got different protocols coming in there. On the housekeeping side of things, in the CPT, this is where I keep copies of CPT. If you go inside that, you will see that you have a Sedona folder. Now you can use that one there, but for people who also use Workbench, you may want to keep that Sedona folder in your Niagara version root directory. I'll show you what I do. This is critical. If you get the Sedona objects part wrong, it's going to give you no end of problems. So kits are super important. What you would do is you would get the kits from the release, which is in here. So if I go and open this, just grab the kits that you've been given and just merge them in, and right over the top, if you have to, go to your CPT dev, that's your new version 27 June, and if you were to just paste them in there, you would have the latest kits. And let's just see why that didn't happen. There you go, there it goes. Just replace all of those, and you've then got the latest BACnet service. That's what you need. Lovely. And for the Niagara version, it's not a different version of Sedona, it's just really where you keep your files. So people who don't use Workbench don't need to worry about this, but people who do, what you need to do is in your kits here, paste in, and again replace them. So everything's up to date. And then I have a choice. I could go to my Workbench, I could use that, and I can also start the new CPT. In CPT, just go to About, and you will see there you've got 27 June. Make sure you point it to your Sedona directory. I know most people who are going to be installing this are EasyIO certified and EasyIO trained, so you shouldn't have a problem. Here's my Workbench. You'll see a good way to test if you have Sedona is just look at your palettes. I have a normal palette and a Sedona palette. So I could just go into the controller here, log in, and as usual we get a nice clean view of everything. So if I just go to the wire sheet, there's my service folder. So I could just drag in another folder here and call this BACnet, just to keep it simple. And if we go to the tools, we can just go and look at the kit manager, and again, don't update these, just stay with what's here. And I've already installed the client. You must install the service, the client, and the server. The client is optional. Now, another piece of housekeeping, going back to our notes here, for BACnet Client, you must have an SD card installed. You must have an SD card installed. The reason for that is when you do a full deploy, you must do a full deploy. Let me show you what happens. What you actually get in CPT is a script that is written onto the SD card. In fact, that's not a very good example. Let's go into the controller. I've already fully deployed mine, but let's just have a look inside. Go to web, go to CPT, look under script. You see now you've got deploy, you've got BACnet. So CPT plays an important part of the BACnet discovery tool. In Workbench we can't do that, and you have to add the objects manually. That's only for the client. So just to recap on that, so the client, the BACnet client allows you to manage other BACnet devices. Allows you to manage other devices, mstp or IP, it doesn't matter. Okay, and server, BACnet server, is where we as the FG is reporting to another BACnet client. In other words, we're being managed by somebody else. We are being managed by another BACnet system. So we have the full security levels in there. We're not BBMD yet. Our plans are to go to full BBC BTL approval by the end of the year, and that's going to give you BACnet schedules and BACnet histories and all kinds of good stuff for all the people who are living in the BACnet world. Now, of course, the FG also has a built-in SQL server and lots of other features. BACnet is only one of them, but obviously to be a player in the BAS world you have to be following BACnet. Okay, so everything's installed, the kits look good, just make sure they all fit like that. No need to update control to .1, you can just stay at 4.5. And if I was to go into the BACnet here now, I could start adding my BACnet service, which would be down here. If you just go to the service, pull in the BAC service here, and you'll see as by default it is disabled. So all you do is go in there and enable the IP if you want IP, enable mstp. When you enable mstp and you do save, you'll start to see the TX light flashing on the controller. So let's do a save, and you set your baud rate here, you set your MAC address, and this is going to be used now as the service. It can go anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the BACnet folder. It can actually go wherever you want to put it. There is no license control. There it is. So what we'll do is, just out of interest, is just go into CPT now and have a look at the same thing, and you will see we have a BACnet service there, and we can just add in a BACnet server, which is this one, and again you enable it, but let's just do that in Workbench. So if I went into the BACnet service and went underneath it, there is now my server. I can enable it. You will see when I save it, the mstp status will come up. I can give it a name and call it Mike's Test FG. Save, and give it an object ID, and we're all ready to go. If I just go into here now, you will see, and in CPT we've got the same thing. There's my server now, and if you were to discover that with a client, with an external client, either over mstp or IP, you would see this device with this name. If you want to start putting points in there now, all you would do is just add an object, a server object. Let's say it's an AV point, and let's say this is going to be our set point 1. Let's enable that true, give it an instance number. It can be anything from 0 through to 63. So let's make it 0. It's going to be the first one. And for the object name, what you do is a right-hand click here, and it can be up to, I think, 21 or 23 characters. And all you do is type in and say Mike's room temp test point. So you're not restricted by that Sedona 7-character limitation anymore, and you'll find that pretty useful. So as you can see, there's the object name in there. Let's just have a look at that in Workbench, see what that looks like. The same thing, Mike's Test FG, and in here we've got Mike's Test FG, and there's my set point, Mike's room test point there. Okay, so that was pretty easy, and if you went to discover that now, you would see that, and you'll see we support all 16 levels. So when you're doing your logic, let's say this set point is going to a PID loop, you might set that as 16, and then if some BACnet object with a higher level may set that to a higher priority. So that's our first AV point in there. When you discover them, you will see all the points up to 128, but all you do is create these objects, and then you can add the detail that you need. So that'll be pretty straightforward. Let's say we wanted to write this to another, say to a PID loop. You would just do that from another folder using the link manager, or in Workbench using the link mark. Again, so just perfectly normal to what you're used to. Okay, let's now add so there's the service. Here is the server. As you can see there, BACnet service, BACnet server. What we're going to add next is a BACnet client. So a client manages other devices, and they can both run at the same time. So all you would do is go into the BACnet client this time and grab a BACnet network, a BACnet client network. And again, I'll keep, because we've got different people who are using the controller, some are from the Niagara community, some are not. I'm going to jump between the two just to show you how interoperable these tools really are. So there's the service. You can see now there's the client. If I move that over here, just enable it, true. And you can do, it's a little bit like Modbus, you can do the right on start, right on up. You've got your network numbers here. Now, when you double click on this, you must use CPT and it must be full deployed. So you've got to do the full deploy here to get that script on your SD card. It's only if you're using the client. When you double click on it, it takes you into this tool and you can just go and do a discover. I'm going to do a separate video to cover this, just to show you the discovery tools. Make sure you've got, if they're on the mstp, all the baud rates are the same. You'll notice when you do a discover here, it will bring it up and it doesn't mind whether it's IP or mstp, it will just link them all up and it will say link type here. And on mstp, when you actually bring in the device, just by hitting the subscribe button here, or you can just drag it down, make sure that the link type is set to mstp or IP. There is a property for that. So have fun. I'm going to show you a separate video in a moment for the discovery. If you were doing this in Workbench, of course, there's the client service. What you would do is just manually add in a client device here, like so, and then you would give it a number. Let's say it's number 2. Enable it, true, and save it, and that will all come alive. It's down obviously because there's nothing connected. So have fun. These are really awesome features and it can only get better from here on.